Good evening, one and all. Welcome to the show. As you know, I'm Grindhead Jim. I'm excited about today's show in a way you cannot even imagine. Like the title says, I'm reconnecting with my high school best friend. We've kept in touch over the years, and I'm coming up on 30 years of knowing this guy. And this is kind of a way for Aaron to kind of publicly tell me that he told me so when we were in high school, and he kept collecting toys, and I stopped because I started doing this thing called drums. And now we're in our middle age, and I'm like, oh, I have to catch up. And he's like, I've been doing this for years, bro. But he has always been, really special to me in my life, and gave me a lot of support at every stage of my development, both as an adolescent and into adulthood. And we simply don't talk enough. So this is a very selfish episode for me. But he has some amazing stories to tell. And we have to catch up, and you have to catch up because we got to tell you about where all this came from. So without further ado, my very best friend, Mr. Aaron Loughner. Welcome to the stream, brother. How you doing?
Hey, Bert.
Yeah, I guess we should probably explain it right off the bat. So I want to hear the story from your perspective on how we met. I know we had a couple classes together, but I had joined the high school that we went to when I was a sophomore. You were a junior. You're a year older than me, even though you look 10 years younger than I do, which is fine. I won't resent you for that. You have a glow about you. It must be all that Florida air.
I think it's a bad light.
Right. But with all that said, what was your perspective? What are your memories of us meeting?
I think, wasn't it an astronomy class with the great and powerful Oz, right? So, or at least that's my most fondest memories of you and I together. So, in astronomy class.
Yeah. It was something where that was a pretty lax course to be in to begin with.
He was an awesome teacher, yeah.
Really was. He was the guy that was the first person I ever heard say, "I see," said the blind man. So he picked up the hammer and saw. But just his delivery, that guy's delivery was just had such swag. He was basically a science pimp. He was a pimp, and he just was slinging astronomy rather than hookers. It's fine. It's a good guy. But we were both heavy into comic books at that point.
Right.
And there was a lot of good animation. We both bonded over like X-Men and Batman the Animated Series and stuff like that. So shit was hopping. But we also bonded over like movies and cartoons and stuff, and certainly just the pop culture of the day. Like we came from a generation, and thankfully most of our viewership and the community on my channel, like we're all around the same age. We have some younger folks, but back then, liking Marvel, liking DC, liking toys, liking Disney, at that age and that time was not the coolest thing around. We were kind of
nerd was very stereotypical, that's the like almost pocket protector kind of era there, and it's amazing how now, almost, my god, like 20-30 years later, that's the dominant pop culture genre. Here we are. So it's amazing to see how things have changed in our lifetime.
I definitely agree with that, and I think that on top of that, we both did art. It staved off for me after a while. I still draw from time to time and stuff, but you were always painting, you were always drawing. I was always drawing on people. I was doing temporary tattoos in class, as I recall. I still don't know why I did that. It was dumb. And then it's like someone would come in and they'd have like lotion all over their arm. And they're like, draw me, and it would just smear. It would just be this like black smudge. And they're like, what is it? Like, stop putting so much lotion on your arm. Go wash your arm and come back. But you always had an affinity for Scrooge McDuck and a lot of like the contemporary versions of a lot of those Disney animated characters.
Right.
Where did that start for you? Like, where did that love for those characters start?
DuckTales actually was, one of those things. So this was like, the mid to late 80s
Mm-hmm.
there. So I don't know why I kind of fell in love with this, greedy, well, not necessarily greedy, but more miserly. So, pinch a penny kind of duck there. But kind of the coolest thing though, for somebody that rich, uh, you really don't see that in today's society, or even back then. I want to say, just uh, treasure hunting. You know what I mean? Not so
Mm-hmm.
much the businessman, but the never-ending adventurer out there. And his part of his origin story. Not afraid to work hard. So starting off, as a gold miner there. So not afraid to get his hands dirty and stuff. And then you have these classic characters who you knew first. Like Donald, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, and then to see how they fit in with this duck family there. And actually, Scrooge and DuckTales was my entrance into the comic book world as well. So Uncle Scrooge comics were being still published by Disney at the time. I fell in love with Scrooge's creator, Carl Barks, who I actually wrote a letter. I wrote to Disney, and this is kind of unheard of back then, but I had asked to try to find him, and they actually sent me his home address so I could write him a letter, and I still have that. I keep everything, so I guess that's still, part of being a collector there. You're collecting not only your action figures, but you kind of hoard some of these things, which brings me back to whenever we first met. I don't know if you remember a couple years ago when Stan Lee died, and you'd given your own kind of eulogy to him, and I posted. I found a couple good things of your artwork. I still have this shit. I mean, other people kind of pass notes in class, but we would actually do fucking drawings, and we make the characters talk there, and that's kind of how we pass notes in class. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I still
Oh yeah.
have a folder dedicated to you. It's probably about an inch thick of, I kept all those notes that we passed in class there. So I'll have to scan some of those and send some of those to you.
I'm glad you didn't do that for the show. I'm glad you did it for the show. I would have
Uh,
been like, oh,
right.
because then because
So,
we were you know we were adolescent young men, and we all had certain tastes. Let's just say, as one of the images that will come up later,
right.
will certainly illustrate.
Mm,
But it's something where like we would hang out and read comic books and
mm,
uh, just hang out. And it got to a point where I think it was by the time maybe later in the school year, like because we became fast friends. We're hanging out all the time. You weren't far from me, which was cool for me because we
right.
lived far
So,
from school.
did we write this? No, you wrote a different bus than I do, but every once in a while I would catch your bus, so, or vice
Right.
versa, if we would hang out after school, I think.
Right.
Mm,
Exactly. And those are some of my favorite times. So I do have a couple pictures from that I would like to share now,
okay.
just to kind of give folks an idea. Here's Aaron reading a Fantastic Four versus the X-Men, and he's like, "Oh my God, that's Storm's titties," like that kind of a thing. It's a very, very
Uh,
you picture. This is a very not bearded and pimply faced me. There's a lot in this picture to take
I
in,
believe that was
actually.
from your birthday, I want to say, for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
I'm almost certain.
Party?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. It was a birthday party. We had a bunch of people there, and someone got me the SOD live at Budokan tape.
Mm.
So we're listening to that, and my mom informed us of what vitality meant, and she thought we meant frivolity, and it was the whole thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
You can see,
I think that even
yeah,
made it one of our little Jim and Aaron radio tapes there for
yes,
Volley.
yeah, frivolity and vitality. Yeah, we did a lot of SOD stuff because I was like super into that band by that point. But in this picture, you can see like this little piece of artwork that I did on the wall for metal. I had that for so long. Then there's like a really bad Spider-Man Venom and cards. One of my first colored pictures that I hung on to for a long time. And I always kept that there to remind me like how far I was coming with the artwork and so forth. There's a VHS tape of something, who knows. Um, and I've talked about this on the stream before, but this is the Indiana Jones hat that I had as a kid. It was just this hat that we molded into an Indiana Jones hat, and we put the tape on ourselves and so forth. And but it's just interesting that all this stuff is just kind of here on view, even the stonewashed kind of jean thing going on. And of course, what 80s 90s picture would be complete without showing a CRT television, which
Mm.
of one I certainly had, along with my very stylish pencil lamps, which were I had for several years after that. And then this is kind of how things took a turn. When I really got into drums, I wasn't buying as much comics. I wasn't collecting toys as much. I still did for a while. Right around when I graduated high school is more or less when that stopped. But basically after the first wave of Spawn, second wave of Spawn came out, I just kind of stopped. But this is, me with a lot of hair going like, look at me, I'm playing drums. And, but I think that was kind of a shift because you leaned into art and photography and I leaned into music, which for us, I think if you were on the outside looking in, it kind of made sense in terms of our interests and so forth. But we both went and made careers out of those things for the most part. You did photography for multiple newspapers, as I recall, right?
Right. Yeah. Yay.
And then just a few years later, this would have been circa 2001. I only know because of the shirt that I'm wearing.
Mhm.
Either 2001 or 2002, probably 2002. This is at my mother's house. We were just hanging out. I was in the Marines at the time, as well, but as y'all can notice, you can see me from the side and like nothing juts out. Like I'm just there, like back in the day when I actually took care of myself and so forth. What I can't figure out is that I typically drank more beer in those days, and yet, for whatever reason, it helps me gain more weight now. I don't get that. I don't understand.
Yeah, Mother
And
Nature, which as you can see in that picture, my hair, that was the beginning of the end. My hair was starting to thin, so I'm just like, you know what, fuck it, just shave it all off.
I'm wearing a hat in solidarity because my hair is actually growing, and I didn't want to like throw it in your face like, oh, he's got hair. I didn't want it to be like that. I didn't want it to be like that. But so let's go back to the beginning.
Mhm.
That's kind of how we met and everything else. But I want to kind of talk because there was a story you were telling before we went on that I really dug into. So you are a very big Star Wars fan and collector. And that
Yes.
started, as with many of us, at a very early age. You had an interesting story about, I believe it was Yoda, right?
Right. So, um, like most kids, Return of the Jedi was, I think, the first movie I was kind of old enough to see. I remember my dad taking me to see it. The theater behind Greengate Mall is where, I saw all the classic movies. Of the 80s. I remember seeing E.T. there as well. I think our school actually did a field trip there. So, but yeah, I remember me and my dad going to see Return of the Jedi. Jabba the Hutt just scaring the absolute, shit out of me. That was, but I loved, like the aliens, though. All the little guys in Jabba's palace. For whatever reason, I've always been fascinated with like robots and C3PO and R2D2, the ambiguously gay duo there. Like I said, but probably my two favorite Star Wars characters. So, and of course, Star Wars figures being, very tied very closely to the franchise and um, everything there. Some of my favorite memories of playing with those toys. We had a pool in our backyard. It was a chlorine pool. Back in the 80s there, you kind of had to backwash it. There was this like granular, sand and stuff like that, we really weren't supposed to play in because I think it had like a lot of the bacteria and the filtration and stuff there. But the conditions though of it being so wet and all that sand back there, to a child's imagination, I mean that's Dagobah. We had Yoda, and we were probably reenacting the scene. My brothers and sisters, we'd play with these toys and stuff like that. And I remember, so we made Yoda sink in the swamp like quicksand, and he sank in there, and then he didn't go very far on there, but we went to scoop him up, and he was gone, and we kept looking, and it was like and we went like deeper and stuff like that, and he just completely disappears. So that will ever be one of the great mysteries of our childhood there, and that's something too that my brother and sister never forget either. We always, that'll always come up sometimes kind of randomly in conversations about Yoda just completely disappearing there. So,
You had mentioned that Return of the Jedi was the first one that, to your knowledge, you saw in the theater. That's pretty much the same for me. Although I had seen Star Wars, I had seen Empire Strikes Back by that point.
Yeah, I think everybody had VCRs, or even I think more so. I think it was HBO, and I can still hear that that primetime theme where that HBO logo is going through the town and stuff like that, and stuff like that. So right before the Star Wars movies come on and stuff like that. So that was, like popcorn and things like that. That was like a Friday or Saturday night weekend for kids growing up in the 80s.
Oh, for sure. So, and you figure, like, I know I saw Empire Strikes Back and Raiders of the Lost Ark on a double feature at a drive-in, and I have vague memories of that because I was very young. But certainly I remember playing with my Star Wars toys at a buddy's house who did have HBO. We didn't have it. And then Star Wars came out. I'm like, what's this? They're like, this is the first one. I'm like, oh. So like, it was this whole thing. And then later, obviously, we got a VCR. We got ours in 85, I want to say, 84, 85. Almost certainly 85 now that I think about it. And then from then on, it was just like Star Wars, the Road Warrior, all this different stuff. But was your experience with Jedi, was that when the toy collecting started? Is that when you started getting the toys then, or was it maybe before?
Yeah, those were my first action figures. I think most kids, and I know it's kind of very Toy Story-esque. I think maybe that's why Toy Story appealed.
These words just form with your mouth.
Right, appeals to a lot of people because I think a lot of kids had that experience. You had the Tinker Toys. I mean, I grew up with Lincoln Logs and things, and then of course, this guy has always been my favorite. So, Mr. Potato Head was one of my favorite toys growing up. I still collect them. I have a couple. Anytime that there's maybe some new variants and stuff like that, I'll buy a Mr. Potato Head. I've gotten a time they were just selling some cool face pieces and things, holiday version.
You have the Darth Vader one, don't you?
I got Darth Tater, yes. So that was one of my favorites as well. But then, transitioning from those, preschool toys, I know Star Wars were some of my first action figures there. So, and I think that was what's great about it. You know what I mean? They kind of hit that I can't talk today. So hit the head of the nail with the hammer. You know what I'm trying to say. So with
hit the nail on the head.
Yes, merchandising, where the real money from the movies made. So
that's right.
You got to reenact some of the things. We had a sandbox as well. So that was Tatooine. We could dig deep enough. We put little sharp rocks around the hole to make it look like Sarlacc teeth there, and we'd kick Luke and whatever there inside. And stuff like that. So, poor Lando as well. So, just kind of
I thought you were blind.
I remember too, for whatever reason, I was obsessed. Again, I was telling you, I love the aliens in Jabba's palace. So whenever the Max Rebo band set came out, I remember there was a store called Service Merchandise, and
Yep.
me and my grandmother, we went to the Service Merchandise in Monroeville. We picked it up there, and I just played with that the whole time I was at my grandma's house. And I remember her talking to my mom on the phone, and she's telling my mom, like, I've just, I haven't put these toys down since we got them, So, and those were the only three that I had, but I could make them, play the little tune and stuff like that. So, it's just all these great memories that you have with these toys growing up and stuff. And it's kind of sad, I mean, as much as I love my brother and sister, and like I said, we did have good times playing with those toys, whenever we were young. But I did. There was a lot of sibling rivalry. Again, I was kind of the nerdy one. My brother and sister were a little bit more athletic and stuff like that. So there'd be these, kind of conflicts and stuff like that. So even my parents will tell you I was better off, wishing that I was an only child. So
I remember that.
I would try, my damnedest to kill my brother and sister. At 6 or 7 years old, why would that even be illegal? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, right. Because it's like
no jury in the world will convict me.
I just learned arithmetic and subtraction, so by proxy, if they're gone, I get more toys.
Right, exactly.
Therefore, the way to more toys is to get rid of them. You get rid of them.
Yeah, I think as a punishment,
we've got
an attempted murder there. So, I mean, I had a ton of Star Wars toys. I had this awesome C-3PO carrying case. It was, metallic gold on there. And it was my punishment. My mom just took all my Star Wars toys, threw them in the trash there, and that was the end of my Star Wars collection. I had two that survived, so I guess that were in other places. So Grammarian Guard, and I don't even remember what happened that I chopped off his hand there. So, but surprisingly, his weapon survived, which usually I lost a lot of weapons along the way. Another great memory, speaking of which, of lost weapons, me and my best friend who lived on the corner.
Before you go there, we have a question from chat.
Okay.
James Salzberg wants to know, he says he lives in Monroeville and was asking if Child World was still open when you were there.
Yes, so that was kind of right across the way. I think I'm living in Florida now, but there used to be, it went through, I think, a couple different furniture stores where I remember where Child World, I think it was maybe called Children's Palace. I don't necessarily remember Child World, but I think it was it's Children's
Palace. They rebranded in like
as well.
They rebranded the Children's Palace, I think, 84. Because that was the same parent company. And Children's Palace, the one that I remember, was right down the street from my aunt's house, which is closer to where you and I were living
Toys
later.
R Us kind of picked up afterwards.
They swapped out the Toys R Us, I want to say early 90s, somewhere in there, and it was weird. You were both excited, but you're like, oh, but Children's Palace though, because Children's Palace was the shit, But
Hills is where the toys are.
That you're not wrong. So,
and when we get into Transformers, if we talk about that, I'll tell you how Hills fits into all that. So,
well, Hills fits into a lot of your history, as I recall, sir.
Yes.
You did have it. You had another story though, and once we'll finish that story, maybe we can jump ahead a bit as well. So you go ahead.
So finishing up with lost weapons. One of the things I thought was funny, with parents kind of being out of touch with pop culture sometimes. So again, me and my friend would bring our Star Wars guys together. Sometimes he'd have ones that he, I didn't have, and vice versa there. So I had a Bespin Luke, and that was before the little sliding lightsaber in his hands there. It came with a yellow one, which was never in the movie, but nobody cared. And whenever you're 6, you don't really care either. But I remember because it was the summertime. The grass wasn't cut and it was pretty thick, and I lost Luke's lightsaber there, and I was devastated, and I was telling
Right.
my best friend's mom I lost my yellow lightsaber, and she had lifesaver candy, and she she was trying to find a yellow lifesaver to try to make me feel
Bless
better.
her heart.
It's like, yes. So that was something, I don't know why that stuck in my head, but, I remember that.
No,
Not,
I remember
uh,
the same thing happened to me, and where I lost the lightsaber. And then, like what felt like a few days later, but may have been weeks later, for all I know, we were at a restaurant, and my aunt had a cocktail, and it had one of the swords through the cherry, and this one happened to be yellow, and I was like, and the
yes.
light went off my head, and I went, I know this is gonna sound weird, but can I have that? And my mom's like, why would you want that? I was like, well, I lost the lightsaber for the thing. It's the same size. She goes, oh yeah. So we brought it home, and it was just a rapier. So it
Yeah.
had the
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
hand guard.
Talking about.
We clipped the hand guard off. Dad sanded it down. We put it in his hand, and I'll be damned, it wasn't a perfect replacement at the time.
Right.
So uh, I don't have a problem with repros. I know you don't really have much of a problem with repros. That was my first repro, I guess, if you think about it. So
Yeah.
um,
I've done something similar. I think I have a couple penguin action figures who back in the day, again, a cocktail umbrella. I kind of remember instead of, the bright, they were colorful and stuff like that. So I just either, I painted it black or whatever, and then gave it to the penguin, to fit, and which was cool. It could, open and close as well.
right.
So, there you go. So you kind of get creative whenever you're a kid as well to kind of
You
make
have to.
things work.
You
Yeah.
have to.
So
Um, and it's something where Keith Knight is asking, is it the same Monroeville where they filmed Dawn of the Dead? You bet your butt. Yep.
yes, Monroeville Hall had,
Aaron
I think, a museum there for a short period of time dedicated to Dawn of the
sure
Dead.
did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
And so Aaron is slash well was a native of the area. My family was from there, but we were already in the military when I was born, so we were moving around a lot. So I didn't make my way there until summer of '92 for permanent residence. Hurry up, Goldenrod, become a permanent resident. Move up there, and he and I met and everything, and certainly there was a lot of different stores there, and because I've been visiting there over the years, there were a lot of stores. We've already talked about Children's Palace, Toys R Us, Service Merchandise, but I do want to just briefly touch on Hills. Some of my very, very best uh, toy acquisition memories are at the Hills in Greensburg. And um, there's nothing quite like going to Hills, picking out a toy, and on your way out, you get a hot pretzel and a cherry icy. Like that was
uh,
just the thing. My mom would always get the popcorn. I thought it was rancid
popcorn, yes.
personally, but can't do it. But I
Now,
got a lot of
acquire one of these, but I don't know if you're familiar with. He's kind of another YouTuber. Pittsburgh Dad as
oh
well.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and I
Oh yeah,
believe
yeah.
he went to Hempfield as well. I think he graduated after us, and
Yeah, he's younger than we
he
are.
merchandised a Hills snack bar candle, and
Yep.
I'm dying to get my hands on one just so I can smell it.
Yeah,
That
I
smell
don't
of
know how accurate.
as you left the store is just
Yeah,
legendary.
it's kind of crazy, but it for me it was all about the hot pretzel. To
Mhm.
this day, like anytime I can get a hot pretzel, like a proper hot pretzel, not one of
Yes,
these gourmet
super
pieces of
pretzel, I
crap, like
think,
just
right?
the super pretzels are okay.
Mhm.
They're about as close as it gets, but like I'm talking about the ones where it's like look like someone stretched it, so it's like
Yeah, they were a little
the
bit
whole thing,
larger than the ones that you can buy
right?
frozen in the store. Yeah.
And it's got to be the big granules of salt, not this piddly cocaine looking trash.
Exactly.
Um, but you'd always go in, and I would always look at the pretzels, and then we'd make a beeline for whatever it was we were doing. We'd always the toys would be the last thing because they might my folks knew he's going to be in here for frickin' ever. Because again, back then, toys were just there for the most part, and it
Right.
wasn't, "Am I going to get something?" It's, "What am I going to get? What's my
Right.
budget?" kind of a thing. So, and I got, I know for a fact I got some Star Wars stuff there. I know for a fact I got some Transformers stuff there. I definitely got some Mask. I've told the story before where I got the orange Indy car from Mask,
Uh-huh.
and I forget the name of it, but this was all the whole reason we were at Hills that day was we were using their parking lot because Hands Across America was happening that day.
Uh,
You have a vague memory of that thing. So we were parked at Hills, and they were going to stop by the car, and they're like, "Do you want to leave your toy in the car?" And I'm like, "No, I'll take it with me," because that's how I was. So we walk all the way out. And you remember how long that road was out to the highway? But we walked all the way out to the highway, which as a kid felt like 9 miles.
right.
And we're just standing there holding hands with strangers. And for there was no internet. No one was calling anybody. There was no cell phones. We were just holding hands, hoping that the chain stayed going. And clearly it didn't work. It was one of the dumbest ideas in the history of ever, frankly.
Uh,
But it delayed me getting home. It's Firefly is what it's called, Firefly.
mm,
And I got home and put it together. But for whatever reason, because there was things going on that day, I have a vivid memory of that particular toy. Um, but Hills always was kind of one of the focal things. But in high school, everyone gets a job, this sort of a thing. You eventually ended up working at Hills,
yes, it was
right?
started at Christmas time, and it was supposed to be just a part-time job. It was called a layaway runner. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever the girls downstairs would, pack up a layaway box, they would send this up to the conveyor belt where all our the storage and everything was. So and each layaway box was marked with where it was supposed to go. So if it was like an A7, then I would put it in that block. Same thing too. If somebody would call up for a pickup as well, then I'd find that box, put it on the conveyor belt, and send it back down. So after Christmas, they kept me on. And I kind of bounced back and forth between the toy department and the electronics department, which was kind of cool there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, I think I'm trying to remember uh, what came first. I think, damn, because I worked at a couple different ones. Because after high school, I had moved to Pittsburgh. My
Mm-hmm.
grandmother had just passed away. My grandma was pretty lone, and again, just hating my brother and sister so much, to get out and to have my own room, was
Right.
so awesome to me. So I went to Pittsburgh. I still didn't really have any kind of direction. I mean, I still loved art and stuff like that, but what, uh, you know, nobody's going to pay me to paint pictures of flowers or draw Scrooge McDuck all day. I mean, ultimately, I would have loved to have been an animator for Walt Disney World, but I don't think I really had what it takes. In between college, I did go to Walt Disney World. I did the college program there.
Mm-hmm.
I did take my portfolio, and I've got to see some other kids as well, and they did some phenomenal work. My skills weren't quite there yet. And then too, Disney really wasn't looking for animators at the time because Mulan, and I still hold a grudge against Mulan. Till this day, I will not watch this movie because Mulan was the only and first animated feature to be done at the Walt Disney World Studios in Florida. So again, they weren't looking at portfolios at the time. So I still kind of hold a grudge to them there. So
But that was kind of the catalyst for you getting into photography. And
yes,
you always liked taking pictures, and you've hung on to pictures. And also I can use that to segue into what I would argue even though you probably have a lot of Star Wars stuff, I always associated you with the Batman the Animated Series
Because
figures
that's
myself.
whenever we met. Yeah. So kind of kind of jumping into the middle there. So yeah. So whenever we met, I think Batman, and especially Batman Returns, I think that's kind of what bonded us. Especially like I said, that musical bond. And I believe you were the first person that you gave me my first CD, my friend. You gave me the soundtrack to Batman Returns, and I've been a Danny Elfman fan, ever since there. So
I did. I didn't know that was the first CD you ever
that's the
got.
first CD that I ever owned. I still have it, and like I said, that's just kind of been, I think, our thing. We've always loved Batman Returns, which I still is my favorite out of the entire history of Batman. There, I really, a lot. I know it didn't do pretty well in the box office. A lot of people really didn't like it, but I mean, if you watch it, I swear the storytelling, So that's kind of what got me into Batman the Animated Series action figures. So I remember kind of starting off, and this is kind of where toys kind of started to take a dark turn for me, believe it or not, because um, Batman's always been weird with their toys. It's always Batman, and it's different versions of him from here to infinity.
Well,
Villains.
especially at that time too, because you had the Dark Knight series, which was Kenner was running adjacent,
Mhm.
and they had like literally dozens of Batman. But like you're saying, you could only ever get like there's one Penguin, maybe two.
Right. They only
Um,
put one
if
villain
there
per
was
case on there.
yeah,
So
and they were hard to. And this is when you were starting to like find that was an issue because you by then you were working in the stores. You were always telling me of like, can't find this fucking blah, blah, blah. Like you would just go nuts. Like I can't find this figure, and
right.
I'm like I don't know how I can help. I don't know. Um, but that was a big thing. Like that's when you start. I think by that time because I think short crating was always a thing. Because I remember back with like He-Man, Superpowers, Star Wars, there were always figures that were in shorter supply than others. But I think that as a kid, you don't really think about that. You don't understand that.
Right.
The
And it
parents
doesn't
don't
seem like
tell
you've ever
you.
had a problem, getting the ones that you want, or at least I don't think I ever did. There was one though. It was uh, a later figure. So this was for Return of the Jedi. Again, a huge fan of the robots and the droids. For Return of the Jedi, I think one of their later series, the action figures came with a coin, and
Yeah.
the uh, I think EV-99 was his name, and he was like the
Hmm.
torture master in
Yeah.
Jabba's dungeon there, who you know uh, take in 3PO and R2D2. And I remember at Rite Aid actually. Going down, we used to ride our bikes. I lived in Jeanette at the time, and I remember that I remember people like getting discounts on like damaged goods and stuff like that because the store wanted to sell it, but you could kind of haggle. And I remember
Right.
somebody like had stolen a coin out of there, but I wanted to get this action figure. So I took it to the counter to see if the guy would give me a deal, and he didn't. And I was so like devastated. First of all, that I didn't get the deal, and like second, he probably just like threw it away or whatever, or damaged
Right.
whatever they used to do to him. So that's kind of the one that got away for me as a kid. So
Yeah, you wanted to come home with that figure and go, good, new acquisition. You
yes,
are good, 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 are
exactly. So,
you not?
because like I said, I
You
have
know.
my little, because I had the '88 droid and stuff like that. So he needed a buddy to kind of go with there. So
Hmm.
going back to Batman, I was kind of lucky, to get first dibs sometimes on it. But I remember again my first experience with, I guess, scalping, if you will. Again, it was kind of done a lot differently back in the day than it is now with the internet and stuff like that. So you had to go to garage sales and flea markets and things like that if you wanted to do that. And my aunt out in Pittsburgh knew of a guy that was selling Batman stuff. So, I remember going, and the Riddler was the one I was looking for. I couldn't find him anywhere on there, but this guy had him, and my God, I think it was like twice as much as what you would pay in the store. And I remember I wanted it so bad. It was kind of like a love-hate situation. I was so happy to found it, but goddamn, I was so pissed about paying, twice as what I would, at the store as well. So
and nothing has changed.
and it's gone all downhill, from there since then. So that's kind of, again, like I said,
Absolutely.
my first scalping experience. So, like I said, now eBay, I've gotten some pretty good deals, and then I've gotten ripped off pretty bad sometimes. I kind of got into a habit whenever that first came out. I remember because I always, it's funny when we were talking about some of these stores, but like KB Toys, I thought had such a high markup, so I would never shop KB. Again, whenever Toys R Us came as well, really wouldn't go to Toys R Us too much because their prices I thought were too high. Whenever I came back to Greensburg, I worked at Walmart for a little bit, and between discount and again, I think I was in the toy department, so I got to pick out some of the toys and stuff there. So
so if anyone watching was living in Greensburg in the late '90s, early 2000s,
the good stuff,
and you were exactly, you were wondering why you couldn't find shit at that Walmart. That's the reason right there. Absolutely.
So, but I've made a mistake a couple of times because I couldn't find it at Walmart. I would buy it off of eBay thinking I'd get it cheaper or whatever. But one day I did happen to go inside a Toys R Us, and I found a figure that I just bought off of eBay, paid twice as much for it. And it was still at Toys R Us, for Toys R Us's regular retail price. So
right, you gotta check the local stuff first.
Exactly. So that made me more vigilant. So that kind of started my, like to find things in the wild, they call it now. So that made me more
making the rounds.
Right. So whenever Target started to pop up here in the Northeast and in Greensburg and stuff like that. So not to discount those places just because, and honestly, if anything, they were maybe only $1 more than what, Walmart had them, to be honest. But, you try to be cheap, and a lot of times it has actually bitten me in the ass. I spend more money trying to save money, So.
Exactly. And that's where, even with some of the modern stuff I'm collecting, like I collect Motu Origins, and I'm all caught up on the series up to this point, but I spent more than I probably should have to get there. However, when I now look at some of the figures from just like, because this, you got to remember that this particular line is it's barely 2 years old, barely. And in terms of wide release, it'll be 2 years old in the spring. Well, there are some figures, even from the second and third wave, that were short crates in the first place. Still hard to come across in the wild. And yeah, did I spend $30 for a $15 figure? Sure. Is that figure now going for $60, $70 regularly, and I'm still hard to come by in the wild, even with some of my most dedicated friends looking for those figures? Yeah. So it's something where you have to be realistic about, okay, I don't want to pay more, but if the market is telling me for a long period of time that there's probably no way around that, then it's a question of paying the least amount more that you can. And it becomes this kind of a game that you have to play with yourself versus maybe earlier in the process where you would, or someone would just, ooh, there it is, and just buy it for way too much. And that's by part of why I think what perpetuates the really high price gouging, because they always know there's one born every minute, and somebody's going to click to buy it now, because eBay will default to brand new and give you more or less the highest price that you're going to pay for that item when you search it through Google. They're smart that way. And a lot of sellers make their living off just making these inflated things. Well, I guess that's what it costs. Because it's hard to find the link to, find the listings and all that if you're not a savvy user, which is kind of weird, but it's fine. I want to roll back the clock a little bit.
Okay.
Because while we were in high school, so like post Batman Returns, pre Spawn Wave 1, I was on a kick, and you were to a certain degree getting the Toy Biz Marvel stuff, which was new at the time. Tell me about your experiences with Marvel and Toy Biz.
Believe it or not, I really didn't get into that as much for whatever reason. My big things were, like I said, going from Batman before Batman Returns, if I can turn the clock back a little bit. So starting after Star Wars, then, like I said, after that huge blow of my figures being tossed out, I still had to default on GoBots. Which again, our family, even though still being pretty middle class, when your parents want to pay $2 for a GoBot or $5 for a Transformer, mom's going to tell you to get the GoBot.
GoBot.
A ton of GoBots. And then, so a couple holy grails, not really holy grails, but a couple of prides in my collection were a couple of Transformers I were able to get. And of course, so I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see the Transformers I have. As you can see, they were on clearance. So the ones I was able to afford. But Ratchet was always one of my favorite characters. I still have them in the box. It's beat up to hell and back. It's missing the flap on the other side and stuff there. So, and I just didn't realize until recently, how insanely, priced they are on eBay there. So I really didn't think of them there. So another cool one, the Autobots were always my favorite, the good guys and stuff like that. So, and then I got Soundwave though, because the tapes and stuff like that, those were always cool. And again, on freaking clearance, that was as well. And if I could tell another childhood story. So yes, so but this is going way into the future. So like I said, let me backtrack for just a minute. So my brother, he had Optimus Prime on there, which was kind of cool. And I remember again, we would play, but on our street, there was the grates and stuff like that for the for the runoff from rainwater and stuff like that going on there. So, but the cool thing about Optimus Prime, I don't know if you remember it, there was a spring-loaded little car. I think his name was Roller in the cartoon there. So, and I think he made one appearance in the cartoon, but. So my brother pressed the button on there and Roller just kind of went out and he went right through the grate down into the sewer there. Right. So, but my brother, he was more into G.I. Joe and he was kind of a pyromaniac, still is to this day. So any chance he got a hold of firecrackers, he was kind of more like Sid, Toy Story infamy there. So he would love to blow up.
Having met your having met your brother, I believe it. Yeah.
Right.
He's always been a hyper kid.
Optimus Prime, met his demise with an M80, much to my dismay. So, but never having him, but still kind of wanting him. Again, this was kind of at the end of, Transformers fame. I think G2 had just made its way out. My childhood pretty much destroyed by Optimus Prime's death and all these retarded Autobots like Rodimus Prime and Cup and Blur and stuff like that. Like, who the hell are these guys, making their appearance? So
I'm a gigantic fan.
Right. So, but still, probably one of the better though of that group, Ultra Magnus. Again, still having the Optimus Prime, body on there. So I kind of picked up Ultra Magnus there. So.
And that's worth a pretty penny, I tell you.
Yes. So, and I feel bad. I can take it out if you want, but I remember trying to. I didn't paint the body, but the attachable hands that Optimus Prime had, they were actually white. They came with them, with Ultra Magnus, but I painted them blue just to try to make it as much as I could to Optimus Prime. So that was customizing before it was even a thing.
And you're getting some support from chat saying Ultra Magnus rules.
It's kind of neat. Ultra Magnus, it's weird. From the continuity that we know it, the G1 continuity, and all these cartoons, it's amazing how much Ultra Magnus makes an appearance and some with Optimus Prime in these newer cartoons there. So again, like I said, he was kind of and first time I ever heard a swear word as well. I remember in the movie.
Oh shit! What are we gonna do now?
Oh, damn it!
Well, in the theatrical version of the film, and I think they cut it out in the VHS for the FHE release. You've opened a can of worms because I'm like really into this movie. Like I haven't. Just today, I got an older clamshell version of Transformers the movie on VHS. It just arrived today. I don't have it here yet. I have to go get it, but so yeah. But on the original release in the theater, when Unicron eats Moonbase 2, and they try to blow up Moonbase 2 in an effort to kill him, like, we got him! Yay! Look, it's even did it. Oh shit! What are we gonna do now?
And then that, but that was funny.
In there.
In the DVD, it actually in the chapters, it's labeled swear word.
Yeah, it is.
But I don't remember. The thing, like I said, I will always remember is Ultra Magnus trying to open up the Matrix, and open up, damn it,
open. Yeah, Robert Stack doing his best thing. You're also getting support from chat on the whole G2 thing from my buddy Melvor. Yeah, who are these guys? Yeah, who are these guys? Kind of a thing. And also, you're not the only one that had to go through some stuff. James Salzberg says that many of his Toy Biz Marvel figurines were victims of the 12 gauge or 45 slugs. And Melvor also saying that season 1 and 2 is his G1. The movie's a different world. It is. I love the original series. I love the movie, and I can appreciate like season 3 and on. I was not really traumatized. Like I was sad about Optimus Prime and everything, but I guess in my logic as a kid, it was just like, well, it's part of life. Like this was going to happen. But I understand why a lot of kids are like, oh my god, and I totally get it.
Well, the movie was bad, but the one that really got me, it's kind of weird. So it was either 3 or 4 there. So they brought Optimus back, I think a couple times there, and whenever he died the second time, I'm like in 4th and 5th grade, I wanted to say, and I think Transformers was on early in the morning as well.
So you had to go to school.
So Optimus, I'm gonna start to cry because this hurt. I mean, his arms blowed off. He's saving everybody again. So he's got one arm. He's trying to pilot this ship to the sun. I think the Quintessence set off a bomb or something there. So not only, and that's the whole episode. They desecrated this Autobot shrine. So all your favorite heroes are on there, and so the Quintessence are devastating it and vandalizing it again. So you had to see them died twice. So and they were graphic with it. So half of Optimus's face is blown up. He's got one arm and he's driving this ship into the sun and stuff like that. And that's all I could think about that day. I mean, I went to school like numb that particular morning. So that's even though watching him, turn black and gray and dying there was bad enough. I think the more violent one was the one that affected me emotionally, personally, the most.
Well, I get it. It's an entire mood, as the kids would say. So, what is your favorite Marvel character?
Oh, yes. So going back to the Marvel stuff, again, that didn't come in till late. I think I started collecting, actually, the Batman the Animated Series stuff first. The first one I ever got, and I think the only of those ones I think that you were talking about, like the little Toy Biz one. So it was a Doctor Doom He had a little knob on his back. He came with a couple like spinny toys and stuff like that. But I remember
So before,
Mhm.
but you are a big Doctor Doom fan, though, right?
Yes. So, and if I can go way back to earlier in the conversation. So again, the Scrooge comics were the first ones that I ever collected kind of on my own. Now, my fascination with Doctor Doom started shortly thereafter. So, again, I was living in Jeanette, and another friend of mine who was a huge comic book fan, his nickname was actually Marvel. So, and that stuck with him pretty much throughout the rest of his life. So, because he collected comics, but he gave me an Avengers comic, and it was the Act of Vengeance. And I didn't know who this guy was, but he was kind of cool because, like I said, he looked like a robot, and I had no idea a man underneath it. I actually thought it was still a machine there. So, but I thought it was really cool. So that's where my fascination with Doctor Doom started, and I realized he was more a Fantastic Four villain than an Avengers villain there. Right. So whenever I saw that toy, so I picked him up and I got him. I opened him up. He broke shortly thereafter. So like his chest came out, you could see the gears and stuff inside that would make his arm twist on there. I wouldn't buy a Doctor Doom or any other Marvel toy, I think, until much later. I saw this is, I think, maybe it was a Series 2 Doctor Doom, and it was still called the Marvel Legends series. And this was again early 2000, late 90s. There, I found them in a Kmart of places. It was a bigger box. It was clear plastic, and it came with a comic book as well. And I think that Doctor Doom had two variants in there. I think one came with the mask on, and then the mask was off on the other side there. So I'm not sure if the scale's the same as the current Legends on there, because I feel like that Legends 2 series kind of died off for a little bit. And then I want to say not too long ago, I mean, that's whenever the revival came back with like the 6-inch kind of figures there, which again, I'm only really buying the Doctor Doom ones there. So, and but I do have a Miles Morales too, because I really enjoyed Into the Spider-Verse.
So knowing that and having going into this stream, I have a bit of a surprise for you. So after our conversation about bringing you on to the show, I decided that it was just wrong that you don't have this figure. So I got you a mint on card Toy Biz Doctor Doom. So we're going to send that out to you as soon as possible. But
yes,
you're welcome. But I knew that this was your first. I knew the answer to all those questions. I was listening. This is your. I know this is your favorite character. I know this was the first one that you bought. I know that he broke, and it didn't. It didn't sit well with me after that conversation. I'm like, well, I'm going to buy this for him for the show and send it out to him after the show because I know how much this would mean to you. So this is my gift to you, pal.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think I lied though. I do remember. I think again because Spider-Man.
Don't ruin the moment, damn it! No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
So there was, I think, I want to say it's that series. I think there was a Spider-Man and he had suction cups on his hands there. So
I had that one.
One of those, but I thought the suction cups were gay, so I got off the.
Yeah, they weren't great at all.
They kind of squished up, and you really had to press to get them on there. So I actually had two from that line. So.
James Salzberg, if you just want to send it to me, I'll wait and I'll send them both together. How about that? That'll be easier. Because James Salzberg is volunteering to send you a loose one of the same character, so you can keep that one on card.
Okay, yay!
So I'll have him send it to me. I'll put it on one box and whoosh, off it goes for you.
Cool.
So
thank you guys.
We're enablers around here. I don't know if you've noticed that.
We had talked a little bit. Because I really don't. The only I did have some positive experiences. Going to comic book conventions and stuff. Buying some of these action figures. One of the ones there was a table set up by it was a Pennsylvania Star Wars Collection Society. I don't know if you were ever familiar with them at all. So, but they're one of the ones that seem to be a little bit nicer. So again, just kind of screwing myself over on eBay. Going to these garage sales and flea markets and stuff like that. People were a little bit better, and I kind of classified myself. I guess they called them like lurkers. I really didn't offer too much information because I wasn't really. I really didn't honestly really have too much to say, but people would say, hey, Century 3 Mall KB Toys got wave 2 of the Clone Wars or something in so a lot of people in that area then would go down and pick out the toys that they wanted. So that was kind of a nice network there. But a lot of times too, then you would get the people that were, hey, I saw two Luke Skywalker's at Walmart, so I picked up one. Maybe somebody give me, if it was a $10 toy, then hey, give me like $20 and I'll ship it to you, or pick it up and it'll only be 15 or something like that. So you kind of had a little bit of both in there. So you kind of have some of these scalpers, and then you kind of have some of the more helpful people. But again, I just kind of wasn't too like active in the group, but I would if they have some things, because it was statewide. So Philadelphia kind of had some events and things like that, and Pittsburgh area would have some events as well. So if it was convenient, then maybe I'd go, but not really. Again, I would just kind of read the message boards, and that was kind of about it. So, but again, just seeing so much negativity in there, and like I said, the scalping was more prevalent. It seemed like I just kind of distanced myself from all that. So again, like just off one of your fans just kind of offering me a toy there, that's something I'm not used to.
Well, that's I think the difference in today's day and age, and in the greater community that we're a part of. I'm a very small gear in a much larger mechanism of many YouTubers that are like really like deeply entrenched into toys, and it's an international thing. We've got folks in Australia, the UK, the US, South America, you name it, and people are always looking out for South Africa. We've got people looking out for all kinds of stuff all over the place, and we help each other out and make sure everyone has what they're looking for as best as we can make it happen. And for me, that was a big pull of why I did decide to start collecting again, because I knew I had a support system and I could ask questions without being ostracized, and I didn't have to feel like I had to watch my back. Plus, the content's great. Like just being able to see toys that I haven't seen for 30, 40 years, just even on a video screen. It's like, oh, I haven't seen that. Like the first month or two of this whole journey, there were toys I had forgotten existed. Like, and then I'm just like, I had like 17 of those or whatever. And you just go a little, you go a little crazy in your head when you see these things. And whether you're collecting modern, vintage, or a mix of it, there's no replacing that feeling of holding it in your hand, for the first time in however many years. Even if it's just a new version of a character you used to have as a kid. Like the first time I held a He-Man in my hand this year was like, like, oh, I haven't had a He-Man in my hand so long. Oh my God, power, like the whole thing, right? It's pretty nuts. But chat is coming with some great things to say about the community. Keith's saying the community is awesome, a lot of generosity and love, 100% fact. James Salzberg says we're all friends, not looking to profit on friends. Exactly. It's not something where you were like, certainly not everyone's just going to give anything old thing away. Like if someone else had that sound wave, like they're not going to give that away.
Right.
They're going to sell it, but they'll sell it at a decent, friend, brotherly, sisterly price. And that's even in and of itself, it's a huge act of generosity, because it would be very easy to list that on an eBay or something and get top dollar because some schmuck will pay it.
Mhm.
You know, and in a world where there's like people that's not their priority. They just
Right.
want to help each other out.
Mhm.
That's why I do it, and it's been a whirlwind. So just to even be able to show you just that little tiny nugget of that in real time is kind of cool. So um, let's shift a little bit back to Star Wars, and we'll come
Okay.
back to we can finish out the Transformers because you have your collection here that you were reorganizing it recently.
Right. So,
So
and then going from, once I mean, it's weird. I always called that the G2, those guys, Rodimus, Ultra Magnus, RC,
mhm,
those guys. But I didn't know that G2 actually meant they reissued a lot of the original Transformers with just new decos on there.
mhm.
I think because of the backlash of Megatron being a gun, I think that's where he finally got his tank form there as well. I
Which
think the
I've
camo
still never forgiven them for.
right, and then the Constructicons were like yellow instead of that, the green and purple there.
Mhm.
It kind of died off, so I stopped collecting. My next thing after like GoBots and Transformers there then was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, but
Yes, which I also collected
right.
by the time
So
we had met.
but yeah,
Yeah.
we'll jump over that to get back to the Transformers. It really was a huge lull up until Michael Bay, started back up with the live action movies there. So as you can see from a lot of those photos, a lot of those I started to collect them again. Um, Again, I was a little bit more older. I think I had a little bit more money. So, and again, GoBots, didn't have to compete with Transformers at this point anymore. And
Right.
again, I think I was working for Kmart now at this time. So I spent a lot of time in retail, and having that employee discount helped as well. So. I started getting some of more my more favorite characters. Again, a lot of them were mostly Autobots. I don't even really think I bought any Decepticons there, but like Ratchet, Bumblebee, and Optimus Prime were always the big three for me.
Mhm.
Uh, so I started collecting again with the Michael Bay films and stuff there. Then, and then it's weird, just kind of recently. Over the pandemic, kind of renewed my interest again in Transformers there. So, um, uh, I had a DVD, Transformers Prime. This was like in
Mhm.
2010, and
Mhm.
it's been 10 years since I've seen the show. I've only had season one, so having all this time on my hands, I bought a couple older, DVDs. I think either like Target or even eBay had them at a pretty good price. So I got these DVDs, and it really snowballed for all these action figures. So again, I took some of these out to find. I know I bought some of these Transformers animated toys and haven't even watched, the entire seasons and their completions. So that was what was kind of odd as well. Same with Transformers Animated. I think maybe I've only seen one or two episodes. I bought the figures just because they were my favorite, but never seen the whole thing. What you just shown again this past spring, because this War for Cybertron series came up. So again, all my
Mhm.
stuff's in totes. So to kind of organize, and these were originally stored in 40-gallon totes. I upgraded to 50-gallon totes because everything stacked a little bit nicer on top of each other, and then I had more space. So that's kind of what started this. So yes, so
This was kind of your reorganization thing then.
yeah, so this huge mess there is one of my reorgs there, and now too, I really fell in love with this War for Cybertron series, and again, I haven't even seen the show yet. And I think it was already two seasons. So it was Siege was the first part, and I think it was only like
Mhm.
6 episodes, and then Earthrise. So and then finally, what's after Earthrise there? Oh, it has the Beast Wars Transformers. So, yeah, I never got into Beast Wars. I thought the animation was still. I think it was one of the first, if not the first, CGI cartoons to come out, and it was very bad. So that kind of was a turn.
Janky.
Don't know the lore too much. Well, it didn't really put it into perspective until now, watching the War for Cybertron. But Optimus Prime as an ape really was kind of. I was like, no, that was kind of
Actually, it's Optimus Primal. Just
stuff
but
was kind of weird, to me. So that's kind of how, like I said, I left the Transformers up until, like I said, Michael Bay reboot there. So, but
and
yep, go ahead.
it's something where like the War for Cybertron series that you mentioned actually has its roots in a video game. There was a series of
Right.
2 or 3 of them where it was like a prequel to the whole G1 that we grew up with, and it talks about like the war of Cybertron, obviously.
Right.
And they took some liberties with the lore, but was still, it felt very cozy. Like it was a really cool way of playing your way through the story. It was popular enough, I believe, that's what greenlit the series to tell that story in a more linear format.
From what I understand, they're not really related in name only. So, but it's still
Right.
kind of the same premise, but I think it's a completely different story.
Right, and it's something where they saw that like, oh, that's not the story we want to tell, but it's a cool thing to visit. Let's do it our way, because the guys that made the game had kind of carte blanche, but they worked directly with Hasbro on designs and concepts and making sure things were there. But my understanding of it, and someone in chat who's more into it or might be able to correct me, but my understanding is that was kind of the catalyst that said, there's stuff to be told there, and that which of course led to this line, which has become a great excuse for them to keep a certain scale and like re-release characters and stuff, so you could kind of go nuts with it. I almost fell into the studio series when they started releasing the Transformers the movie characters. Like I came this close. I almost
I got sucked in. So because I didn't know where they were going with it, because a lot of the studio series were kind of re-releases of some of the movie characters as well. I know it was released in Japan, and I always wanted, but Soundwave in his Mercedes-Benz form, and I never jumped on eBay to get it because it was just a little too expensive. But I was so happy they released it in the studio series here in the United States. So, but what I like, again, kind of the point I was going to make about the War for Cybertron, just how much it looked like the original cartoon toys. I mean, their faces actually matched. You didn't have poor Ratchet with a sticker on his face and stuff like that. And the articulation too. So now they have elbows and shoulders and knees that can move as well on there. And I was really impressed. So that's why I kept up with this line without even having to see the actual shows. So now that all 3 are together, so I did kind of watch them kind of all together in one big block. And I feel so bad because I love these toys, but I absolutely hate.
That happens a lot.
It's a terrible trilogy. I really felt the story was so weak. I really didn't like what they did with Optimus Prime and Bumblebee there. It was just it really, I don't really think it did, the characters justice there. There were some neat things in there, but I really didn't think it was enough to really support this series. So I was just disappointed. But and 2, I was, for the characters that they made a lot of characters that weren't actually in the show. And I'm hoping they still might be able to squeeze those out, while they can still ride a little bit, on the last part of the trilogy there. But again, going back to eBay and stuff like that, like because I got into it late as well. So again, and my 2 favorites Ratchet and Bumblebee going for hundreds of dollars
Insane
on
prices.
eBay.
Yeah.
There, I'm kicking myself. I know I've seen these guys probably in the stores and never picked them up because I didn't, I just didn't really know better at the time. I picked up. It started with Soundwave again because he was one of my favorite characters. There, I think he was a Walmart exclusive. I did remember seeing one in his Siege, battle damaged gear, and I passed upon it. And so I passed on the tapes as well, because I think there was a 2-pack of like a Ravage and Rumble, kind of like the original. So I didn't get the tapes. And then those had already been discontinued whenever it was a Walmart exclusive one. It was a clean version of Soundwave. So I picked them up. And then I saw that Ratchet was a Walgreens exclusive. So I was trying to look for him at all these Walgreens and came up empty-handed. But I did see a Hoist, who I never had, and who looked pretty cool. Again, looked just like the cartoon. So he's the one that kind of really started this ball rolling. So because he wasn't very, he was a hard one to find, it seemed like. So I picked up Hoist, and then I'm like, shit. So I just started gobbling up.
I guess I gotta do this now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we're doing this. Yeah, exactly. So, but now that War for Cybertron's kind of ending, again, the studio series, I'm not sure if I'm going to pick up again these weirdos of Cup and Blur and Springer and all them. But Jazz was like one of the first ones, and he's always been a favorite. So I got Jazz already. And I've liked, even though he's still of the the second generation there, Rekgar. I picked him up because a couple of different reasons. Just because I'm a huge Weird Al fan. Again, going back to Nerddom there. I got his Transformers animated version as well because he was indeed voiced by Weird Al Yankovic in the cartoon show as well.
In the cartoon show, yes.
Yes. So
in the film, was there a title?
Yes, in the movie, but it's called Transformers and the animated series there. So he's actually a garbage truck in that particular form in that show. So
on brand.
Yeah.
Junkicon. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. So I got Rekgar in that, and then I think Hasbro Pulse did a a pre-order of Perceptor, who again I always would have loved to have had as a kid, but never did. And again, he's going to be done in the cartoon style. So I pre-ordered Perceptor. So again, it feels like, damn it, I'm going to be doing this. And now the Dinobots. So if I could find Slag, and hopefully if they might re-release Grimlock as well, I'm going to maybe try to pick those up if they're going to rehash the Dinobots as well.
Yeah, there's a bunch of. They've already got. You can get Slag. I've seen them on Amazon for around 40, which is what his retail is.
Should still be pretty current. So I'm hoping again I'll find him in the wild, maybe at the Target or Walmart somewhere as well. Might have to order from maybe either like Entertainment Earth. Sometimes those have been good venues for me as well. Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store as well. So
Big Bad Toy Store. If you gotta go with one of those two, you gotta go with BBTS. Entertainment Earth screwed me over.
Right. One of the ones that pissed me off. It was a Optimus Prime and Ratchet 2-pack. And my order got lost, and I am so pissed at EE for that. So,
yeah. So my Castle Grayskull, I'll condense the story. I pre-ordered from Entertainment Earth because I didn't know any better at the time. And over time, we're like, dude, you got to get away from them. They're like, they'll screw you up. I'm like, yeah, I'll wait for this to arrive, and I'm with you. Well, they shipped it out. I had updated my address with a human being. They shipped it out. Took over a week to get to me, which should have been 3 to 4 days shipping. 3 days is just kind of sitting there going, we couldn't deliver it. Then it gets shipped back to them, and it was another week. And then I come to find out that they had put the wrong address in. So they put in an address that didn't exist because they put the wrong zip code in. And it was going to take them another 10 days just to process. I'm like, just give me a refund, because at that point, the restocks were starting to come in at Target and Amazon and stuff. So I was able to get one at a Target locally, and it was great. But after that horrible experience, combined with the stories I've heard from other people, Entertainment Earth, just randomly canceling orders and stuff like that, Big Bad Toy Store, is something that everyone I know is like that. They're okay. They'll do the trick. You might wait a little longer. You might pay an extra $1 or $2, but by and large, they tend to take pretty good care of business. And Amazon is not bad, is because they'll tend to not only sell at retail, sometimes under, and you'll be able to get it. But if you're like an anti Jeff Bezos, anti Amazon person, which it sounds like you might be,
well, I don't know, and I've seen this on the message boards. So again, some of the Star Wars ones again are extremely toxic. But I know the two biggest offenders for these crushed packages have been Walmart and Amazon. So Amazon, I've had, the price is good. You've got fast delivery, but man, like I said, the boxes have just been smashed to hell and back, along with the merchandise inside of it. Same thing with Walmart.
Yeah.
Walmart too, and it's weird that I've gotten action figures shipped inside plastic bags. Like you don't,
me too.
right? Like,
right.
Who the fuck packaged
but
it?
I have a couple hacks for you. When you're ordering an action figure from Amazon, make sure you order it with other stuff.
Yeah, so that's a whole other story. Yeah, we'll get back to that in a second. But go ahead and on to your second one.
But just basically, if you do that, they'll tend to ship in a box overall, so the overall chances are lesser. The other thing I wanted to bring up, particularly with Slag, because he's been around for a hot minute, and it's going to get to a point where you won't be able to even get them at retail on an Amazon. So this is my thought process. Processes of thought. Get them at retail price from Amazon, so you have them. If the box doesn't have crush, boom, you're done. You're good to go. If there is any box damage, you can still find them in the wild, sell the damaged one at cost, and you've lost nothing. But what you're running the risk of, and I'm only saying this because I'm going through this with Origins now, if you don't pounce on it when you can get it at retail price, you will pay more later.
Right.
Don't be take the shot, kid. Take the chance. You have, especially with these Transformers, because the Studio Series ones they just shoot up in price like crazy. And the only reason I'm not getting into them is freaking Unicron. They did the HasLabs thing. I don't support the HasLabs thing. Plus, he was way too expensive for what he was, so I didn't get him. And if I can't get a Unicron, there's no reason for me to get all the other figures for me at that point, because that's the guy for me. I mean, obviously I'm a kaiju person, so of course I'm into Unicron, like hardcore. But because people have asked, well, if your mascot wouldn't be like a version of Godzilla, what would it be? Like, Unicron, absolutely. It's harder to come by stuff, but the whole point being, I'm not in there, but I see it all the time. And I go, ooh, if I was gonna, here's how I would do it. It's kind of like, I kind of take the O.J. Simpson approach to collecting certain toy lines. I'm not going to collect this toy, but if I was gonna, here's how I would do it. Kind of a thing.
Stab at it.
See, I was trying not to go there. He's just like, nope. Horrible. Too soon. It's only been 28 years. It's too soon. But with the Transformers stuff, I think that with a lot of Hasbro lines in particular, they have so many different versions, like not just variants, but so many different lines, different scales. Especially with Transformers, it's been just like what, and I just can't. I can't figure it out. So what finally got me started, my buddy Carl Gojatron sent a couple of those Transformers core figures. So they're only about this big, but they're very cartoon accurate. They transform. They're great. They're not expensive. They're not hard to find.
I think is that still on the Is it these
Yeah,
ones? I think.
that might be a Super 7, actually.
So I think it's
Um,
packaged though on the maybe War for Cybertron packaging.
Wolf on core. So yeah, you're right. That's the core one. Okay, I didn't see the where the legs transformed. It looked solid for a second. So I was like, is that a
Okay.
Super 7 one? Like a
Mhm.
reaction? Um, but it's something where I like that, but they don't seem to be going too deep with that line. And I wish they would just go nuts and release everybody. Like give me the whole G1, G2 line in that scale. I'll snap them all up. But they just jumped over to like Beast Wars and shit. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Like
I don't
this?
know if that's too an answer, and it's kind of weird. So you know, I the getting old sucks. So you know, now that these Beast Wars are being reissued and stuff like that, it's like I think because that it seems like that belonged to another generation. Like I said, I don't because I never watched that show. You know, again, it felt it was like the kids after us maybe kind of picked up on that. So, it worries me because I want to see more G1 kind of stuff as well. Like I said, they've done some really cool, like Warpath and Tracks.
Mhm.
Issued in the War for Cybertron series there. So if they can maybe
Did
do
you see the? I think it's a studio series Wheeljack, which looks really nice.
uh,
Um,
I know he's out in the Kingdom. So yeah, Kingdom is the last
okay.
series of War for Cybertron. So he's out in that as well. And I think I got a couple versions of him because I think Walmart had again when their Netflix series. I think they did the very gritty Siege versions with the battle damage on them. So I got a battle damaged Wheeljack, and then I got the clean one in the it's either the Kingdom or the Earthrise version of him.
Sure.
So yep.
So we're just so you're aware, we've hit the 90-minute mark.
Okay.
So I promise you I'd give you the warning at that point. Um, if you want to take 5 minutes to just maybe get a drink or go to the bathroom, and then we can kind of wrap some things up here for you. But I'll check in with chat, and whenever you're back, we'll get you back in and we'll talk some more stuff.
Okay.
See you in a minute.
All right.
So I just want to check in with everybody, and because it's a lot to ask somebody to sit still for that period of time, even if we're having this great conversation and being friends and everything. So I like to give people a chance to stretch. Um, and so I just want to catch up with, like Jesse said, Walmart items are smashed on their own shelves alone through shipping. Not wrong. Not wrong, sir. And yeah, I'm aware of the whole controversy with that. And it's just like, look, that's the character's name. I'm not saying it to hurt anybody's feelings. That's the name of the damn character. I'm sorry. If there was a character named C Word, maybe it'd be something different. I don't know. I know it's a culture thing, whatever. Um, but Daniel Carhoonan comes in with European, Scandinavian, right? Because you're in Scandinavia. If Transformers collectors from UK aren't offended by the name, then the name change is unnecessary. I agree. Because I'd never heard anyone say like, "Oh, you can't call them slag because there's some people in this one country that like that word is." I hadn't heard that controversy myself.
Yeah,
Hadn't
I
heard
didn't
that
know
controversy.
why there was the name change there. I mean, that's always what I called him in the car. I just assumed it was maybe an error on the box. So I had no idea
Mm-mm.
there was any.
No, apparently it was because in the UK, that word carries a similar connotation to the C word for us, even though they use the C word for something totally different. So I'm just like, so what? Like, I get it though. If there was a transformer named cunt, it would be a problem. I get it. Like, I understand. I understand. But it's one of those things. Jim Largo, very close friend of Grind HQ, who says that you are a great guest and says it's a fun
Yes.
conversation. So appreciate that. Absolutely. So, and thank you, Daniel. I wanted to make sure I'm old and I forget things. So thank you for confirming that yes, you are indeed Scandinavian. Um, so because I did say, um, do you find that because I know that you have a lot of focus when it comes to things. You obviously have a lot of attention to detail. You've always been looking for variants. You've always been looking well, I don't have this particular one. Like, you're not the guy to get, I have this character, I have this character, I have this character. You like to go for, like, not necessarily the entire line, but if you're going to go, you're going to go
Mhm.
with that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Star Wars has
are
been my
there,
primary focus there. So again, after having my collection completely destroyed, so this was kind of fun, and this, I think, I started doing this before. Again, this was with a film camera. One of the things that was pretty cool. So after the again, started getting into collecting, well, a little bit before. So again, working, I think at Hills. This was, again, I think in the early '90s there. So they started to come out with Luke Skywalker on steroids here.
yeah,
So
I have a Han Solo on steroids right here, as a matter of fact.
so
There you go.
there you go. So and then a Princess Leia wrestling action figure to go with
Off
that.
the top rope, Leia Organa. With the help, the only one can help me. You're my only hope, brother.
The Annihilator from Alderaan. So, after the first, the Phantom Menace and stuff like that, and then Attack of the Clones inspired this. They were really short on Cartoon Network, and I would be on the edge of my seat setting my timer. Because these little snippets would appear in between some of these, Cartoon Network shows. Even if they weren't cartoons that I like, I'd make sure I watch them to find these little. And forgive me if I pronounce his name. It's like Tartakovsky or whatever. He drew, I think, like Dexter's Lab and Samurai Jack and things like that. So he did these little short Clone Wars snippets for George Lucas, and this was one of the episodes, I think, whenever they finally got their own series and started doing real half-hour episodes there. So this was one of the they came out with some of the action figures. They weren't really, these ones weren't in that the animation style. They did some that were in the animation style, which I really wish that they made more of in that scale. But this is me just having some fun with my camera. And it's weird for having a camera, loving photography and loving action figures. I never really loved taking pictures of action figures, and I see some of these guys now that do amazing things, especially with the Star Wars Black series as well, with some of the effects and stuff like that on there. But again, this is like, before Photoshop and things like that. This is just all natural lights and poses and stuff. And then, winter in Western Pennsylvania, having some snow. So getting to reenact this scene from the cartoon there. So, but again, starting with that, the power of the Force, starting to collect and rebuilding my action figures. That's what I, like the Phoenix Will Rise Again. So that's what I started with. Those power of the Force, and eventually they got out of that corny super steroid build and started to make better action figures. And then along came the Episode 1 toys and stuff, and then Clone Wars, and then they just kind of went on from there. And that's kind of where like I said, I delved hardcore into that. I started getting variants. I have a lot of action figure collecting disorders because of that. Some of them you have to look. And two, I always hated, I'd have to look and I'd be there in the store taking off my glasses, making sure action figures weren't cross-eyed because of, shoddy paint jobs. Jabba's Palace, again, like I said, being Return of the Jedi being my favorite, making sure I collect all the Return of the Jedi figures. That Ifont Mon behind Bib Fortuna there, kind of hard to get. I think he's kind of expensive and sought after as well. I was lucky enough to score him. Again, I think I was working at Walmart, and I think I just pulled him right out of the case as well. There,
you bastard! I'm just kidding.
But that was going to be one of my projects during the pandemic. My husband didn't really go into work from home mode until a little bit later on. So I had already been home from work for maybe about 2 or 3 months already, and I was going to build all these dioramas and things like that. And Jabba's Palace was one of them. There was a Walmart exclusive playset, and I never really got into vehicles or playsets too much. But again, it was a hard plastic, which was better than this paper. I want to say this was maybe even a mail away one at one time. This Jabba's Palace. So again, I was going to build my own Jabba's Palace, but he kind of took my work center there. So that never really, never really made it to life there. So, but hopefully when things get back to normal and I still have some time, maybe I can get into, building and photographing more things again.
Yeah, I have a light box that was generously donated to the channel, and I haven't used it yet because I'm lazy, to be honest. Because I have a table and it's a nice sized box and everything. But I've been taking a lot of pictures of like He-Man and Skeletor, and they just kind of talk to each other. And someone commented that, if there's someone that doesn't know the He-Man lore and they only know these two characters from your Instagram, they're gonna think these two are friends. I was like, no, the thing, frenemies, because it's just dumb. Like the first picture is like Skeletor with his head is like I have a headache, like it's like it'll be better tomorrow. But then
Now,
there's weird stuff like we had like a Wondar, and he's always talking about carbs and bread and stuff, and the whole thing.
Now, if I can ask about your collection a little bit now, because I know you're a big He-Man fan, and it's kind of funny. So I kind of grew up in a Christian household, so it's kind of funny. He-Man was forbidden fruit for me. All my friends had
I
them
get it.
and stuff like that, but we never could. I mean, I got to play with the toys and stuff like that, but I could never own any. So I guess so. Tell me, so how did you get into like He-Man? So tell me your He-Man story then, because I'm curious.
So with He-Man, the toy line came out well before the cartoon did, and I remember getting the toys, and the commercials were very creative at the time. But then when the cartoon hit, like it really filled in the gaps for me, and like it really took off. And that Filmation cartoon just rocked my world. I would watch it every single day, and they were always bringing in new characters, but the stories were always pretty good. There was always a moral to the story, which I find funny that people of moral fortitude would be against these characters that the stories tell very, very Judeo-Christian morality tales. They truly did. And going back and watching it now, I'm like, oh, okay, with the Christian overtones there, pal. But it was fine. It was what it was. But the toys were relatively inexpensive. They were easy to get. They were just a ton of fun, and they could take a pounding. They were really play ready for kids. And I collected them straight through like 85, 86. And I, during that time, got into Superpowers collection as well. And so I was collecting them kind of simultaneously. And Star Wars was always kind of in the background there. I had a ton of those and I loved them very much. But my memories are kind of dominated by Superpowers and He-Man the most, even though I had a huge love for the Star Wars stuff that I had. Because the He-Man stuff, they just kept making more. They kept making more. It's like, I want this one. I want this one. And I don't remember at what point that they went the way of the dodo for me. I remember the Superpowers collection going away. I remember the Star Wars going away. And He-Man might have gone away at the same time, but I don't have a vivid memory of that. But I think that just it was something different, and to the relative cost, like their whole idea was like they're like, well, we got these Star Wars figures, this is a 3 3/4 inch Clark Kent, well, he'll do, but like he's got this, but for relatively the same price, you can get a guy this big. And as a kid, you're like, ooh, I'm getting more for my money or whatever. There was a certain degree of that, I think, too. A lot of play value in them, Thar Hills. And when you had, I always kind of viewed cartoon shows as kind of a almost play along with the show kind of a thing. I liked having the toys out when I watched the cartoons,
Right.
or
Yes. Yes.
whatever. And that was because it was on 5 days a week. and this is in the days before a VCR. That was like the closest thing, that I had.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't a particularly noisy kid with my toys. If I wasn't playing with along with a cartoon or with people, it was all up here. I didn't really make a lot of sound effects. Everything was up here because I knew in my head the brain was always accurate. So they would just be walking by and they just see me moving the figures and doing something like, you were so quiet. I was like, oh yeah. I knew the movie in my head was way better than pew pew pew. Like I could do that, and I did do that at times, but
Part of the fun was making those noises and stuff. And I think because another career option for me, I wanted to be a cartoon voice over actor, because just liking to do all the other cartoon characters' voices and stuff like that. And it's that was just half the fun, trying to imitate, their bring their voices into reality as well. So
well, these days I have a lot of fun just kind of using inappropriate voices for certain things. So I have my little miniature land shark here, and his voice happens. This little box of, I mean, I like fish, I guess, but you see, I'm a land shark, so I have limited options, and I've kind of started taking to eating grasshoppers and stuff. It's a little weird. These guns are way too overpowered for a grasshopper, so it's really slow going. That's the kind of thing that I get into, like juxtaposing like really inappropriate stuff like that. For me, that's a lot of fun because there's people that will do machinima or photography and be very super serious about it and be like, "This is He-Man," and blah, blah, blah. And I'm more of a like, "Why am I always carrying this sword?" Like he's like, "This is so dumb. Like I can only put one thing behind me at a time." And he's just like, I have to always carry something. No wonder my wrist has carpal tunnel for crying. Like things like that. Like that to me is where the hilarity is in. But I can still have the figures out and think of them in a more serious vein within the lore and everything. But I just like having, for lack of a better word, I just like having fun.
mhm.
You know, and with some of the figures that I've got that are in similar scales, like I have, I just told you before, the thing Jim Largo had sent along the Muppets, and it's like, ooh, I wonder what Kermit the Frog would say to Skeletor because they're in very similar scales. Like, oh, sheesh, you have a problem with your complexion, like, shut up, you boob. Like, it would just be a lot of fun.
Now
You know,
that's something that was forbidden for me. I never mixed universes. Like in Toy Story, seeing like this figure, what do you mix with Mr. Potato Head? That was just like
mhm.
I just like no, you never.
Anathema,
My
across
world,
the streams.
nope, you never cross the streams. So yeah, GoBots only with GoBots. I was very kind of OCD.
I was like that as a kid, though. I was very much like that as a kid. Like other toys didn't play with other toys, but now I'm allowing a little bit of crossover because it's fun. But James Salzberg's like, doesn't Landshark eat candy? Candy can for Mongo. Candy can for Mongo. Mongo like candy. Yeah, it'd be fun. All right. Well, since I'm on the subject, might as well do it. Landshark like candy. It's fun. But then you get like things that are from the same company and the same scale, like Salzberg saying that his Fortnite characters hang out with his Joes. And
Mhm.
I think that there's unique opportunities with some of the modern stuff where you have things that are in the same scale but not related, but you can use them to troop build and customize and do things that the line itself won't allow you to do. Get off the TV. I'm saying that to a cat. Hey, get down. You with the fur. Down. Come on. That's right. All four paws on the surface. Thank you. Oh, your goddamn mind. Um, it's just a fact. But I know that when the space becomes something that is available to me, I'm gonna get a larger area where I am going to have a dedicated studio office space because my day job, we're remote. Like we completely changed our company model forever because we've expanded international. It's like, well, there's no point in bringing people back to each office if they're going to be working remote anyway. We're saving money, works out better, um, and so forth. So it's good stuff. But because of that, I want to have a dedicated room for work, which will also be dedicated for this. And also the whole back wall will be display. And I plan on displaying everything with themselves. I don't want to have like dioramas of like He-Man and the Muppets all the
Right.
time. That would be interesting. Be like, oh, because I recently got the Mysteries of Grayskull, which has a tentacle coming out of the grate. Like back in the day, it was just a sticker. Now there's an actual thing. You click onto it, and there's will come out of it. So it's a little hentai. It's a little hentai leaning. I'm not gonna lie. So I think it'd be funny to like have a picture where you have Piggy and Kermit's head from behind out of focus, and it's focusing on the tentacle in the distance, and then going, oh, I don't know if that's such a good idea, Piggy. Like, come on, it'll be fun. It's like let's try it. Like their marriage is on the rocks. They're trying something crazy. Stuff like that. But I like the idea of having like not necessarily like a cubicle kind of a situation, but you have like this line's here and this line's here and this line's here. That's the kind of things I really look forward to, because just like with movies and video games and everything else that I collect, I like going up to the shelf and just pulling it off, look at it and be like, oh, this is cool, then put it back.
Right.
At any time, just be able to grab it and look at it. So I feel your pain when you have like, I've got all this stuff in bins, like I'm there. Even with my CDs for years, they were in storage because I didn't have the space to display them. So when I have had the space, like everything's out. I don't store anything when I have the space to do so. And I worry that on a long enough timeline, eventually you have to start making choices, because you can't just, because I know myself. We buy a house. I was like, well, you keep adding to that one room. Like, last year it was 10 feet. Next year it's going to be 25 feet. Pretty soon that room is just going to empty out onto the curb in the stream. Like, because I can see myself adding on an extension to a room over and over again. So I got to be careful with that stuff for sure. But you also have limited space. You do tend to store a lot of things in the bins. How do you combat that? What do you choose to keep out? Do you rotate it, or is there specific stuff that's always kept out?
Yeah, maybe I'll next time I'll send you some shots. But I do have a couple like display cases that are perfect for action figures, and that's for my primary Star Wars collection. So currently, with all the new Mandalorian merchandise coming out, so a lot of my Mando stuff are out on display right now. I do have I think the center shelf is dedicated to just some of my more favorite Star Wars guys, that I want to keep out in view all the time. Again, the pinnacle of my collection, and I think you showed it now. And this goes back to, again, whenever I lived in Pittsburgh, in Monroeville Mall, where the Night of the Living Dead was shot there. They had a Warner Brothers store that was kind of going up against the Disney store at the time. And
remember,
again, I think this was maybe at the end of Batman the Animated Series. I think maybe they were doing like the Superman adventures and stuff like that there. So, but they had this awesome animation cell. It was $250 there. The thing was huge. And it was Batman's Rogues Gallery. It had all the classic villains, and of course Harley Quinn, who was original and unique to the show there. So I always wanted to do my action figures with this particular animation style. So I don't know, hopefully if you maybe pull that up there. So and finally, after finally getting my own home, I was finally able to display this properly. This is something I'm just so proud of. The reason why I bought it, I mean, I just go there for hours at the mall and just stare and drool at this animation cell. And this was, I finally put enough money away that I was able to purchase this thing. So Again, I got a couple little IKEA shelves there that were perfect for the action figures, and I was able to complete this display. I chose the purple wall paint on there specifically. The whole wall was designed around this kind of centerpiece here. So again, this is absolutely my pride and joy. I mean, I've cataloged my Star Wars action figures. I have 1,225 figures and vehicles in the 3-inch scale, and some 6-inch. My 6 inches counted in there as well. So to date, but this is still my. I just still get giddy every time that I look at it. So, but
You
yeah.
have over 1,000 Star Wars figures and vehicle. You just glossed over that massive number right there.
So yeah, going back to the archiving and stuff like that. So before I would just buy these little kind of Tupperware bins there. I would label them according to movie, and there really wasn't that many out at the time, and it just kind of got out of control, and I really neglected kind of keeping up because the figures and their weapons would be there, and then I started, whenever I would get them out, I wouldn't know. Thank you, thank you, Dan. So yeah, again, that was one of my favorite things is putting the animation cell with the those figures there. But going back to the Star Wars and the trying to keep things organized. Then I finally started buying the little bags to keep the figures and their weapons kind of organized. I was trying to take pictures of that because I took pictures too of my collection again when I went through a reorg of everything just kind of sprawled out on the floor there. That was probably the biggest challenge, matching up the weapons and stuff like that. It took a lot of research too, going online, places like Rebel Scum and Jedi Temple Archives. I think were very useful in trying to match stuff up. With
because a lot of like your old catalogs and some of the promotional material would show the wrong weapon with the figure sometimes, so you had to be able to cross-reference, and
right,
yeah, that stuff can get pretty dicey,
right.
for sure.
So, and then as I mentioned with the Transformers organization, trying to get consistent because I bought the bins for the collection that I had. I really didn't anticipate things growing or new lines and stuff coming along. So
Right.
I've kind of uniformed now for the space that I have. I feel bad. We have a 2-car garage and only one car. My husband's car fits on one side. My side of the garage has nothing but my action figures in there, and they're 50-gallon totes. I think they're a Sterlite brand there, and like I said, they stack really nice as well. So that's kind of why I chose those on there. So that's kind of how I'm kind of keeping things organized. You really can't see it because it's facing the opposite side of the room, but this is kind of my Star Wars room. I kind of have things throughout. There's a couple things on the bookshelf behind me. I feel bad I don't put anything on the wall because I have such great, artwork and posters and things like that I want to display as well. So, and of course my own photography too. So that my action figures and collection have to take a backseat for the artwork.
Yeah, and that's in direct contrast to my stubborn nature, which is I will make everything work. I have a 5-foot tall napalm death poster that will find a place somewhere in the new place, and I had one for years. Cats pissed on it, bought another one, and I have like a bunch of like little posters from different things, and like I just want to like a little mosaic kind of a thing on the wall, on one wall in one room. There's going to be a dedicated toy room, and then of course where the living room is going to be like movies and the CDs and everything. And I'm not going to sacrifice any of it. And I've said it to Suze over and over again. I'm like, look, if it's not big enough for everything, we're not buying it. I'm not going there because I do not want to get into that space where I have to make really hard choices. Like there's always going to be certain rotation, I think.
Right. I mean, I would love to have a mansion. And have each room dedicated to each genre of collecting. Once I hit the lottery, I'm going to try to make that happen. But until then,
Well,
unfortunately, it breaks my heart that I have to keep these things, locked away.
well, like a buddy of mine, he's really into collecting like CDs, vinyl, and cassette tapes. And his cassette tape collection got so big, he built a shed, like a barn shed in his backyard. And all that's in there is like a small stereo with a headphone amp and a couple posters, and the rest of it's just stacks and stacks and stacks of cassettes. So when he wants to listen to his cassettes, he goes out to this climate controlled shed in the middle of his backyard to just listen to his cassettes.
Mm.
But his CDs and his vinyl are still in the main house and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's dedication. Like, I'm just like, cassette tapes though? Because I'm like, really?
Right.
But everyone has their thing, whether it's toys, whether it's animation cells or Blu-rays or whatever. Like everyone has something that they like to keep around. Even people are like, I don't collect anything, and then you look over, they have like 37 candles on the table, and you're like, no, you collect candles, bro. Like everyone has something. I unfortunately have many things. Like I've developed an addiction for pint glasses in the last 10 years or so. So I have a like insane number of pint glasses. So like if you can think of it, I probably have something of that on a glass, and it goes a little bit nuts. But then at one point I was like, well, do I get like a custom shelf to put pint glasses on? So it's both functional storage so that I can get to them, but also I can look at them all the time. So it's like what I'm really looking for is a 3 to 4 bedroom house with a fully functional living room, dining room, lots of wall space in every single room. So I have a place to put stuff. So like the dining room, we've agreed there will be like an area where you could have a meal, but it'll be like modular. You won't have this huge table, but we'll have like a mini bar there because I have a kegerator for like draft beer and stuff. But there'll be a lot of space for things like that, like a shot glass collection and pint glasses and things like that. But we have that luxury to a certain degree of planning it out ahead of time, so when we're ready to pull the trigger, we know what we're getting into. But where we are now, it's an extremely small space. And coming into this hobby here, like we have a storage unit already, like, and I'm just throwing stuff in there. But at the same time, I insist on keeping the bulk of it right here. Like there's this stack of totes right next to me, and it's I don't mind. She doesn't mind, but it's weird because now this thing is encroaching upon your ability to live.
Right.
When you have enough stuff arrive in the mail in 1 week, you have to start mitigating. What's my best option for disposing of flattened cardboard? Questions I never thought that I would ask myself in this lifetime. Well, once a week, I have to take all the cardboard that we've gotten over the past week, flatten it, tape it up, and then just carry it out to the dumpster. Because otherwise I would never stop making trips to the dumpster with all these damn boxes. It's the little dumb things that no one talks about when it comes to collecting or buying things from either overseas or what have you. It's an interesting part of collecting now. And even if you're buying everything retail, if you're not keeping the mint on card, or if you are keeping one mint on card and one loose, well, then you have to decide, do I keep the card back? Do I throw out the bubble? What do I do? It's all... I think everyone has a different way of looking at it, and I'm always interested to hear. I know you like your mint on card. I know you like your mint on card.
It's again due to constraints and stuff like that. Whenever I first started, I think because of that incident of having my toys being thrown away, that started my dysfunction of buying like two. So I had one to open and then one mint on card, just in case. So I think that's kind of what started that. Again, just because space just got tighter and tighter and things like that. I just only limited really to, either like the droids or my favorite characters. or something special. So maybe I'll get one, and then like if there's a variant or or an exclusive or something like that, then I'll have an extra. But yeah, right now I'm really, and for the most part, I'm an opener. So I enjoy having them out and playing with them, those kinds of things. So it's really only, like I said, the special ones that I'll get either doubles or one to save. Sometimes I'll even buy just the mint on card one, like I said, if it is a variant or something like that, just to just to have it. But that's kind of where I'm at in my collecting right now, anyway. So, but yeah, gone are those days I used to buy two of everything.
Yeah, I was when I was first getting into Origins, Motu Origins. I would just get the stuff, and I would occasionally open one or two, but I would just storing them until I got to a place where I was like, okay, I kind of have enough. I didn't really understand how many I was actually going to end up with. But then you get to a certain point where they're taking over, and you have no choice. You've got to store them somehow. You got to polybag them. You got to organize them. The whole thing. So I did a stream where all I did was take all of my Motu Origins figures off the card and put them in bags and store them. And it took me 4 hours to do that because I had so much stuff at that point. And by the end of that stream, I got really good at using one of these, just go and just get right around that bubble and get it nice and tight to the card so I can still keep the card back in a nice stack because I think it's a good compromise. Keep the nice card back, get rid of that bubble because those bubbles take up too much damn space. They do. And there's no
too a lot of I threw a lot of card backs away first, and then early on, whenever the those new Power of the Force figures came out, they were doing some classic mailaways as well. So then I started keeping the card backs to save the UPC code just in case they ever have a mail away again, and that kind of never really stopped now either. Especially now that Hasbro's gone pretty much full vintage collection with their 4-inch figures there. I think the nostalgia aspect of it, I kind of keep them as well.
Because I think for a lot of people, what I've noticed, people that are like diehard Star Wars collectors, they've already got the original stuff loose, so they'll buy vintage collection stuff, keep on card, and just remove like stickers and stuff like that, like the stupid retro sticker, like little WD-40, get that right off. And like I know a few people that are kind of into that. Like I know Scuba Pete does that, where he just likes to have them on the card, so he doesn't need the figure, but he wants to have that kind of because I think those of us that do have anything that's mint on card, it's kind of cool to be able to pick it up and kind of imagine for a second that you're at the store and you're like, because that's it. It's something where living in Dallas Fort Worth, this metroplex, there's a lot of stores here, but people, because it's a big city, things get picked clean very fast to the point where things like a Castle Grayskull or larger things that tend to go fast, they will keep in the back for the first few days that they're in stock to give people a chance to do pickup orders or online orders or whatever. So they don't even keep them out because they know some scalping asshole is going to go, I'll buy this and resell it for $100. And that is actual audio of a scalper. It's weird to me that it makes sense. On the same token, like in the 80s, you never got the sense that there was some dude coming in just like clearing like a whole peg of GI Joes or Motu or Star Wars and then reselling them at a flea market.
Nobody understood that they were going to be worth so much money now, and I think that's kind of what perpetuates the scalper culture there. So anything, I mean, you could put a piece of shit with the Star Wars logo on it, they'll buy it hoping that somebody will pay $100 for it, down the road. So
it's a whole phenomenon, and I think the culture around collectibles, especially toys, has changed a lot, even in the last 4 or 5 years. When you have things like Hasbro Pulse and Mattel Creation, and things like that, crowdfunding, um, and of course the scalper culture that we've come to know and hate over the years. Where I don't know if there's a way out of that really at this point. As unfortunate as it is, because even if they flood the market with product, then they're getting the short end of the stick too.
Right.
So like, I don't think there's enough good distribution, but I think there's a sweet spot, and to where your scalpers will either not be able to keep up, or they'll realize that there's enough that everyone can get it and they're not going to make their money, and maybe they'll stave off some things. But if you put so much stuff in there that there's more than demand actually is, which so far they're not even close to that, so that's fine. I understand that worry, but it's just something that I don't know. I would love. I'm an idealist. I would love to see it go away. I just don't know how that would happen. Um, Daniel Dorian says, speaking of modern Motu, just bought the Motu mini comic collection from Amazon. I have as well. It's on the shelf behind me, behind this screen, and I will be doing a review of it on the channel this week, as a matter of fact. It's very cool. Like, the book is like this thick. You could knock somebody out. You could probably give them a really good concussion with that book. Just like, just throw it at them, and it's like, it's a thick hardback book, dude. I think it's going to repeat. I love this. Love that fan made card back with an empty bubble labeled "The Force."
I've also seen one. I think they had little charred bits of action figure in there, and somebody was trying to pass it off as Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru.
Oh, that's I like that.
Similar to the Force, I think whenever episode 1 came out, there was a kind of one that said midi chlorians on there, and it was they're just an empty on there. So yeah, it's kind of neat how fans kind of get creative with some of those things as well. So here's one of my favorites. So original cardbacks. So even before this was kind of a cute thing there, and it had some other gay. I don't get the some of the references there with like Skeletor being gay, but definitely Peppermint Patty, and then of course Gandalf with the actor who is gay as well. So, but I thought this was kind of.
Are you seriously telling me you don't think that Skeletor is gay with that voice of his and always having his nipples out? Are you serious? Like, just look at him. Look at that grin. He's like, I'm going to go to a glory hole later. Like, of course he's gay, man. Of course he's gay.
So, but yeah, like I said, and I feel bad. I've never really collected too many, and I appreciate some of the things that the fans have done, with some original figures and cardbacks and stuff like that, especially ones that haven't been created. It's like that, Futurama Fry meme, take my money now kind of thing. Shut up and take my money. So of things that you want to see. So yeah,
a lot of really good stuff. Like Stancilla does some good stuff, and there's a couple other companies that are really doing some cool work with Star Wars stuff. That depending upon what you're looking for, it's going to cost you because there's some lower run stuff, but Hasbro's not going to make it. So it's like, oh, that's cool. Like you're big into the droids. They have a whole line of all the droids that never got made, like just droids. So I know if I sent you that link, you'd be like,
I may have to reconsider.
Yeah, they're pricey, but if you're that into those characters, like, you might want to get a thing. Like they made an R2-D2 that you could have him roll. Like his third leg has a thing, and he can actually roll and do the whole thing. Like and it's really solid. But he's in the same style as the Kenner original, so you just put him right next to a 3PO and off you go.
They have made. I have a couple of them, and they made different droids as well that they were remote control, and I think they were like that 4-inch scale there.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, they haven't made anything new like that in a while. And some sounds, I think, as well. You would press the button, and he would actually, beep and whistle and stuff like that. So yeah, those were one of my favorite ones there.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, we've taken up a lot of your time here, and I think it's fair to say that you're more comfortable in front of the camera than maybe you thought you would be. Um, so we definitely need to have you back on the show.
Yeah, there's so
Uh,
much more to talk about too. So, and like I said,
like we're
if I can dig up some more pictures and things like that, we can talk some more, talk toys some more.
Absolutely. So if you'll do me the honor of sticking around for a bit, I'm going to wrap up here with chat, and then you and I can have a private conversation. But I like this question here, and also, hi Shayna, I do see you. Sorry, you're right there.
Hey,
Hi. Yeah, we went to high school with Shayna.
uh,
Um, but the last question I do want to pose to you here is from Jim Largo. He asks if your husband shares your love of toy collecting.
so some people grow up and some do not. So one of the things that we had in common, he's kind of a nerd at heart. It's funny. I'm waiting for him to die so I can inherit his collection there. So
Wow!
I know.
Wow!
Uh, uh, so
Calling a hubby out, man.
know.
What's
So
up with that?
no shame at all. So, because he had some pretty cool stuff. I never really had any Star Wars vehicles, but he had a fucking AT-AT, which he has here. He had the Millennium Falcon.
Mhm.
Um, he has his Jabba as well, but his is still missing quite a few pieces too. So he still has some of his Star Wars guys. I mean, now his bougie ass, he got to go right for the Transformers. So he has an excellent, pretty comprehensive Transformer collection. This past year, actually, for his birthday, because again, I was organizing stuff. And just for shits and giggles, I was going through his Transformer collection, and he has almost two of every Constructicon, but he was missing Hook, who is Devastator's head there.
Yeah.
So I forked out $50 on eBay, got a complete, very nice, good condition Hook to complete his Devastator there. So, but
Nice.
he, he stopped and grew up. Acting is his passion, so that's kind of what he went for. Again, like I said, I was telling Jim before this, I can pretty much tell my life story in the toys and the collections that I bought. Going right from again, beginning maybe with Mr. Potato Head, Star Wars being my first like action figures, GoBots, then Transformers, Ninja Turtles, Batman the Animated Series. What was after Batman there? So some of the Marvel, and then after Batman, again, like I said, the revival with Star Wars really kicked into high gear, and then the kind of the same thing with the Transformers there, and those have been kind of my two passions. Because those are the two that I kind of cataloged the most. And now, and again, easily lousy 159 Transformers cataloged and to date. So, with the bulk of those being a lot of the Bayformers there. So.
A lot of plastic, my man. A lot of plastic.
Again, yes,
Um,
like I said, I'll try to take some pictures of how everything's in storage, and we can maybe give you an update. I'd love to get back to you too on the show once that Doctor Doom has come in the mail, and maybe I can show off some of more of my Marvel collection to you guys too.
that'd be awesome. We can definitely make that happen in short order for sure. So, echoing chat here, I do want to thank you for hanging out with us here.
Mhm.
I'm going to wrap up here and then we'll call it a day, but stick around for me.
Yes,
But I
thank you very
appreciate you,
much
brother.
for having me on. Thank your audience too for being so nice and getting to interact with some other fellow collectors too. This is a completely different platform than what I'm used to of like the Facebook message boards and stuff like that. And again, it's kind of refreshing to see a little bit more positive spin on the toy collecting. Again, like I said, for me, this was a breath of fresh air.
Well, we have lots more oxygen for you. So thanks again for being here. And you were the best. I appreciate you, brother.
All right, Bert.
Arnie. That is a story for another time. I tell you, I truly, truly love that man. Really brought legitimacy to my refusal to grow up through various things, whether it was the music stuff, which he didn't understand, but sports like I don't know why they're so angry about something, but I have tape of him saying that guy's angry about something. Uh, but he always was supportive, and with all the different twists and turns that my life took, he always took it in stride, and we always tried to support each other as much as we could. And in today's day and age, with technology being what it is, I'm especially after this conversation, I want to prioritize keeping in touch with him. So keeping him on the show is going to be part and parcel to that. I don't know how regular we'll be able to have him on, but pretty darn regular. I can make a promise that it'll probably be at least quarterly if I have my way, more often depending upon how things go, because he does have a lot of great stories to tell, and clearly he's a great dude. So thank you guys all for supporting tonight's show and um, giving me an opportunity to reconnect with one of my dearest friends in this life and perhaps the next, depending upon if there's a Star Wars section of the afterlife. I don't know, but in any case, this was an amazing time for me. Look forward to a video or two for the rest of the week, and in the meantime, may all your card backs be straight, may all your grinds be merry, and may you be able to get anything you're looking for at any given time at a price you find reasonable. I love you all. Take care. I'm out of here.